Hi, so in the previous video we gave a very brief introduction to how we describe the gradient on a straight line graph, and what I said is that we're looking at really the steepness of the line, and the way that we describe that, or the way we calculate it, is to use difference in y divided by difference in x. And what we're doing is we're working out the gradient bit of when we describe this line, and the general way of describing a straight line on a straight line graph is by using y equals mx plus c, and the bit that we're doing is this bit, which is the gradient. Okay, so what we're going to do now is just give you a specific example from a specific exam question, and just see how we get on with that, and then I'm going to continue on this playlist and I'll give you some more examples a little bit later on. I hope that's okay. So this particular example is roughly about grade C, and it actually describes a line that looks like that, and it asks you to be able to write down the gradient of this line. So the information that you're given is that this point here, which is actually called the y-intercept, it's actually this bit here, this bit is exactly the same as 4, and it also tells you that this line crosses over the x-axis, which is here, there's the y, and it crosses over that axis at 4 as well. Okay. The other thing it tells you is that this is 0, okay, and it asks you to write down the gradient of this particular line. Okay, so I'm going to apply exactly the same principle. I'm going to say the difference in y divided by the difference in x. Okay, so the difference in y, and if you refer to the previous video, the difference in y is going to be the difference between 0 and 4. So I'm just going to write it here, so diff y equals 4 and diff x equals also 4. Okay, so in other words, the gradient of this line is 4 divided by 4, which is 1. Or is it? Okay, alright. Now, one of the things that you need to remember about this is that the way that I've done it is I've just worked out differences, and I've not worried too much about positive and negative numbers and that sort of thing, which is really important. And I'm very aware that some teachers will say, well, what you need to do is you need to use something called y2 minus y1, and this bit is x2 minus x1. And that's really important and used quite a lot in higher level maths. Okay, for the purposes, however, of this type of investigation, what I'm going to suggest is that you just remember that if the line goes this way, it's a negative gradient, okay? It's -1. If the line goes this way, which looks a little bit like a tick, it's a positive gradient. Okay. Now, I appreciate that's probably not very... It's not very mathematical to do it that way, and it would be better perhaps if we started to look at the way the numbers are being put into place. But nevertheless, it's just a very quick and simple way of doing it, that if the line goes this way, it's always a negative gradient, and if it goes this way, just the same as a tick, it's always a positive gradient. I hope that's okay with you. I hope it's useful to you. And what we'll do in the next video is we'll take this a little bit further, and we'll start looking at exam questions that involve not only working out the value of the gradient, but also working out the value of the c-intercept as well. I'll look forward to seeing you inside the next video.